Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with a roll call. Ms. Glukowski, Mr. Easterwood, Ms. Suser, Mr. Meyerhold, Mr. Babcock, Mr. Warner.
Yep.
Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Changes or additions? Okay. What about the minutes from the previous meeting? Have we had a chance to read those? Any additions or corrections? Version the market read.
So moved. Second.
Favored?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll go right into old business here. The storm damage / old bus garage update. Harold, want to update us with that?
Been in contact with the insurance company and they are going to get back with us on whether or not we can demolish the building or whether we have to fix the roof, but our insurance on the building is $1,000 less than what the cost of replacing the roof is. So we're going to see what they say. For certain, tomorrow they're gonna let me know. They're gonna call and let me know what we'll be able to do. So hopefully, if things go right, we might be able to replace it. You know, take that one down, let them know. So we'll find out that information tomorrow, and I'll let you know. And yeah.
What's their big question and whether or not you're gonna allow it?
I think the question was whether we can get like just the actual cash value of it as opposed to getting it fixed. And so I think that's what Pat was working on.
Yeah. So we can see what happens.
Since the kind of the estimate we got was like you said, more than the.
Well, I know what the estimate was, but if it's an estimate that's been submitted, I don't understand why the insurance company would have such an issue. I mean, I would think they'd want to pay out on something that's going to be less of a risk.
Yeah, I don't think.
Right.
Right. I think the conversation was fixing it, and now the conversation is about the replacement value. And so there were just some questions, and they were going to get them answered. If I understand correctly.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All right. We have on here the grant discussion / recommendations, and do have an updated document from Christie, and this is kind of a more fleshed out version of the one that we had I think our last meeting with the non-match grants listed. I know those have already went to one of our subcommittees and we've discussed that, which I'm sure we'll cover in our report. So we still need to get that list of public works and safety. So we're hoping to be able to move pretty quickly on kind of narrowing it down to the 8 to 10, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Christie's contract is only till February, and she thinks she could probably get 8 to 10 grants written by that time. So what she did with this document is she narrowed down the ones with no match right now. Those will probably be easier to submit right away. And then give us more time to kind of discuss those other ones that do require a match and put like a plan in place. And then also with the way she narrowed it down was by the deadline of when it needs to be submitted.
Yeah. And there's a better idea there of like the typical funding as well. And so I know last time we were kind of coming up with an idea for $5,000 and an idea for $500,000. We'll just put it that way. So that we had kind of a wide range. But you know, obviously that's something, you know, we want to, have everyone, kind of come to a consensus on. Are there any on that list that anyone thinks is just kind of a no-brainer, that we kind of have an idea that she can maybe get started?
I thought there was one for
I think it,
speed radar one. Was that the one?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to speak for the committee, but,
I think another one was that search grant that had, that does the analysis that's been talked about
Yeah.
for stormwater. And I know it's been brought up if, you know, there's a grant opportunity for it to just do infrastructure analysis in general versus just one, like stormwater. So
I'd say if there's no match to the stormwater one to do the analysis, that would be the one that we should go after.
what do you think, Rick?
That's what we talked about the last meeting.
Yeah, because I think there's at least 4 other ones that kind of fit into public works. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion about those. Does anyone have any discussion otherwise?
My only question about that is because Bob Desmond is saying, just hire an intern and walk around town. If we do this, who are we going with to actually do this? That would do something more thorough, because Rob, when we talked about it in committee, I believe Rob brought up that we need something a little bit more than just interns walking around, seeing where things are tied into.
Yeah, I think what he was suggesting was just to like help us get an idea of what we already have.
Mhm.
Certainly, there's still opportunity to, you know, professionally look into expanding, right?
Yeah, but I think in most cases, I mean, I think we know what we have.
Yeah.
To probably 95% from like our stormwater endings and all that stuff, you've already mapped out and everything.
I mean,
I
what,
think the analysis that's gonna be critical is to determine, you know, the amount of water, number one, when you
Yeah.
get so many inches of rain.
Yeah.
And number two, whether or not taking a look at what we have in storm drainage, what it's able to take care of and what it can't.
Find out if it's adequate enough.
Yeah,
yeah,
and also
agreed.
take into effect the ditches. Like I said, everybody talks about ditches get full and that's when it doesn't happen.
Yep.
So like I said, that they make pumps for that. And, you know, if you've got to put certain pump stations in to take care of that type of overflow. And I'll tell you what, Northwest Water and Sewer would probably kiss us for starting that, and there may be even help from them. Because anytime that we get runoff, they see it at the sewer plant, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think that's a little grander in scale than,
What Bob, I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we're all on the same page on that.
well, Bob did have a good idea though, and his point was just if we could get someone, and he had suggested like a college intern of some sort.
Because that's what he said he was gonna do. He was one of the associated vendors to do that. He said, that's all we're gonna do is send a college intern, come out and do the
Yeah.
same thing. You were like, well, we have pin locations and, you know, documentation. And he was like, that's all we would really need. That's all they're really gonna do.
Well, but what we don't really have is data on how the catch basin or culvert is built, you know, whether it's, you know, brick or concrete. And he had also suggested that when you look down there, you can kind of see every direction, you know, that, you know, an in or out, you know, is going, and that might be like great data as well.
Now, that would have been great data for us to have already.
Especially after a thing, if we can see, well, fluid's coming from this pipe, say there's 5 pipes coming in there, 4 pipes coming in there, fluid's coming out of this one, but nothing out of that one, you know what I'm saying?
But, and we do
That's what the analysis-
have a little bit of that, but nothing, you know, thorough.
I think the bottom line is that I think that this grant here
Yeah.
should be the one that we should proceed on. If we have to make a motion to do that, then
Okay.
I would make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion,
Seconded.
motion Craig, second from Rob, all in favor, any opposed?
So I think the next step should be whether it should be Stephanie to find out what kind of things would Christie want for that grant.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's great. Yeah, we can kind of get her working on that one. And then, we have Public Works coming up on the 22nd. They can discuss the other ones on that list.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Yeah. Some of the descriptions are very broad that will need narrowed down. One of the grants that are not on here, which is the Workman's Comp Safety Grant, that the training one is on here, but the actual safety grant that's been brought up a few times isn't, because I'm pretty sure it requires a match. Kathy has been talking with Stryker because they want a new Lucas device. And Stryker said, you know, the Workman's Comp one is a great one to go after, and she's already got a quote and everything for it. So that could be another one.
Did you get a quote on the new one?
Yes.
What was the quote?
I got it before at the end of the day, so I didn't have a chance to look at it. But I figured we'd have that for
I just
safety
say
and,
that's the only thing that I mean, even talking to them about this, the one.
the firehouse.
Yeah,
sub-
firehouse
Mhm.
grant. It was tough to even try to figure out what the heck you would go for from that standpoint.
Yeah, because a lot of the EMS related ones are very equipment based
Right,
or training.
right.
well, and our list is bigger than 8 to 10. And so if that's one that we weed out for now.
I'm not saying that
Yeah.
we're gonna have safety meetings, but I know
Right.
it's been discussed about just what it could be
Okay.
spent for.
Yeah. Because if safety wanted to tackle that one too, I think they probably have, you know, a match in their fund to cover if it did require a match.
That one
So-
does not require a match, I don't believe.
Probably not. It wasn't on this no match list, so I wonder if when Christie researched it, it was probably an unknown one.
Could be.
So, yeah, I will, we could probably have her update it and add it to the list as well, so. But there is also a couple other EMS related ones too, if we didn't go for that one, so.
Okay, so everyone on the same page then. So next time, hopefully we can kind of discuss further and narrow down the kind of final list and have some kind of project ideas for her to work on with that.
Or any of these can be combined for a couple of different lists,
Probably.
different grants for same project.
Yeah, I think there's good opportunity for that. I know that's something that we discussed in community development, kind of how some of the grants could fit together or be, taken apart to do separate little things towards a common goal.
And then as the committees are, reviewing these, if you have extra questions, we can send them to Christie or she can do like a phone call with the chairman and kind of go over it in more detail if you have questions or if any of it's confusing or anything.
Did the grant get sent in for parts and that?
Yeah, that was gonna be in my report.
Ohio Department of Development Building and Demolition Site Renovation Project Program. That's for like taking down houses and things of that thing, but it's already for this year, I thought, but
Yeah, that one goes through the county. And if I remember, I read a news article on this one like 2 years ago, and I thought that like your state representative also had to help get like your municipality like on the list, because I think you get on a list and then the county uses that money that was allocated to them to disperse. So I think that one I have to help Christie with to kind of understand more, because like we have a little more information on it being local to the county than she does just by researching their
well, like
website.
I said, the description says demolition of vacant properties or residential properties, blah, blah. We did the downtown Main Street one, right? But we don't necessarily know when these things may need to be addressed. How quick is that response? We don't know. Obviously, we have a couple houses in town that are, that we take care of that have to go through all this legal process. But when it comes down to it, how do we know how we put something on a list if it's,
Right, like if.
if properties has already been declared nuisances
If
in
it
the
has to be
process,
brought down, how
right?
quickly can we submit a grant to get funding? Or could you submit a grant to
Like
get
the house that's
hold on to it?
on out there by the marathon, you know, that finally someone bought it after the fact that we chose not to go through it because it cost us more money and blah, blah, blah. But someone obviously bought it for next to nothing, you know, on the sheriff's sale, but that's the kind of things that I'm kind of looking for is how do we go about doing that, but have a reserve, money allotted for it?
Is the grant that have a reserve fund that we can
Yeah,
add?
that I can
Good
ask.
question.
Yeah.
I think, is that, I think in the community development meeting, we're wondering about, you know, who owned or, you know, what we could do, you know, if it's owned by somebody else. And I know there was that question about it. We wanted to go forward with it, but.
I mean, just like the property right here, I mean, we declared it a nuisance. The owner didn't really want to do nothing. Nobody had the money, but we also had the liability and along with the other properties, you know, I just hate to see us not go out. I mean, we lost $17,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat.
Yeah, and well, and that took some time in itself. So maybe it's something we can have like kind of ready to go.
Or, you
if
know,
that makes sense.
it's a total 3-month process when you do this. We just need more clarification on that.
All right. Yeah, and then same thing for like any of the other ones that you're scoping out, you know, let's get all the questions in that we can. And I'm sure like once she starts tackling them, you know, we'll be able to get a whole lot more information as she works through them. Okay, we had the background check policy on, you know, last time we just wanted Rick to be here to pass that. Has everyone had a chance to review that? Rick, any questions?
Not at all.
Okay. And once again, this just sets standards for you know, what is and isn't acceptable for a potential employee as we're bringing them on and doing their background check. Additional questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
My motion is approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I just wanted to thank Parks and Rec for putting on their Fall Fest. It was an amazing time. We've gotten tons of compliments and it was bigger, better than last year. Good stuff. So
I have one comment.
Sure.
It would have been nice if Parks and Rec would have thanked the taxpayers for putting it on.
okay,
It doesn't seem like they ever get thanked for doing that
I'll
because it was taxpayer money.
pass that along. Stephanie, anything?
I just have the grant updates. I submitted the PEP grant for $1,000. That was for the security cameras that we put in a couple months ago. I submitted that last Thursday. And then the Wood County Park District grant, was submitted, for the mulch on last Wednesday. That total was 11,340 to get all the parks up to, what they're supposed to be. That's what the quote came in for the, from Renewed Outdoors, which is the one that did the previous blow-in at the one park. So we should know, I think in December, if we get the Wood County Park District grant or not. And then the PEP grant, that one's usually a given anyway. We usually get that one. And then the only other one I didn't have in my notes, which is on the agenda, is the suburban natural gas one. We got the paperwork for that. We would get 1,476 for that. We just have to submit what we plan to use it for. So we can talk about that when we get to miscellaneous business. And that's all I got.
All right, Harold, anything for council or vice versa?
I talked to Red over here and apparently that tree's in the way. And I was going to, that this week, or get it removed before he opened. Because it's just,
Which tree is that?
The one right out front.
Right in front of this business.
It's supposed to go to Public Works.
Yeah, it was supposed to
Yeah.
be Public Works first. so.
Well, I'm just letting you guys know, I wanted to remove it, but we'll talk more about it tomorrow.
It's a live tree?
Yeah.
It's the one that's in the
It's
meeting.
in front of his sign and he was in here the last meeting.
Okay.
And he did ask if it could be, well, I think Rob actually spoke
Yeah,
to that. And
We're gonna cut it down or we're gonna try to retransplant it?
Oh,
I'm not just asking a question.
We're just gonna have to cut it down.
It's one of those invasive trees too, that was put on the list, what, last year, or the year before?
we can talk about it tomorrow.
All right. Well, he's basically said he was gonna take care of it, so let's talk about it.
You can find something else.
That's my point. I mean, there's a lot of things that get taken care of that should
I
go.
would like to take it down, but I mean, we can.
It's up for discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can discuss more tomorrow.
All right, and brush pickup, right, or leaf pickup,
Brush.
brush pickup,
Brush pickup.
brush pickup.
We're doing that this week.
Reminder, get your brush out. All right, Ken, moving right along.
One permit was issued this past 2 weeks for a fence permit over on Silver Street. On the 9th of October, I received a call from the owner of a house on Sycamore regarding a nuisance issue at his property. His tenant is cleaning it up. Keeping an eye on it. I noticed I went by today and there's a trailer full of trash with no cover on it. So, I believe property owner would really like me to contact the renter, which I don't think is gonna happen. Ultimately,
Property owner.
yeah, so, but, I just noticed it, so I'll be sending a letter out to them. On the 11th of October, I met with the Wood County Health Department over on Walnut Street, and they have sent a letter to property owners for that needs to be demolished. So he was talking, you know, you might want to consider selling the property as is, knowing that the person buying it also would be required to tear it down since he doesn't have money to do that.
You know, that, like I said, that's how that Main Street one right here, that's how that happened. Is like, they just kept on transferring from person to person
Right.
to avoid the
So
situation.
that's what,
And that's the reason why I was asking about this grant proposal thing, because this is something that probably could help do that, but how, what's illegal, right? Do we not have to take possession? You know what I'm saying?
That was our question with that group
Mhm.
ownership.
the 14, I still haven't been contacted by by the person that I've been put in contact with in the health department for the state. I sent an email to the person in charge, who was the first person to talk to. And she replied that she had sent an email to this person asking him to respond to me after I had sent him 2 emails and got a response. That was on the 14th. To date, I've not heard from the individual, so tomorrow I'll be back to his boss and say,
I know it was on the schedule to go out because they said they were coming out.
yeah. So,
So what is this, which one is this?
yeah, what are you talking about?
oh, I'm sorry, Taylor.
The old church.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask the question whether or not we had people.
Other than that, that's all I got.
All right, great. We had a couple committee meetings and Parks and Rec for the 9th.
Let's see, on the ninth, start at 6:30, in attendance, Samantha Wick, Sheldon McClellan, Brittany Klosky, and Christine Long remotely, later on, myself, and Jared Bosa. Jared is, they're representing Sunlight Church. They came and volunteered to do some of the games at the Festin over the weekend, and which was awesome. Certainly added a lot to what was going on there. Also, it had gone final details of the event, including Stephanie sending reach alert for road closure and parking. Also set up the tractor ride pickup area as to not interfere with the magician show. And Christine confirmed for Kareem 30 bales of straw for the event. was a short discussion confirming the attendance of the EMS fires, suburban natural gas, Wood County Sheriff, and right tone for touch truck. A budget of $200 for this next coming Saturday's Monster Mash was approved. And at Brittany's request, a budget of $150 for a November 9th Veterans Day coffee event was also approved.
All right, great. Any questions? Awesome. We had an administrative process meeting to report on from the 14th.
In attendance were Jessica Souza, Brittany Kukowski, the mayor, Stephanie Mons, Dean Babcock, and myself. We looked at grants that do not require matches, made recommendations for projects and committees we discussed. We reviewed the 2025 budget, discussed employee pool for part-time seasonal work, cemetery budget to include computer purchase, and requests from safety and roads. We reviewed the PEP Faithful Performance application, discussed how this can be used in replace of bonds. Stephanie's going to get pricing for the committee to review at the November meeting. The Sports Initiative Board discussed who should pay for utilities. Right now, the proposal is have the SIB to cover the cost of utilities for 3 years, and the village would deduct that from the money that they currently have, which the village holds. This would allow us, the village, to build this back into our budget so that then would not be on them after 3 years. We also discussed the donation and policy and verbal feedback from Paul Scaff on the difference between donation, sponsorship, and advertisement. We're going to update the part-time maintenance job description needs to be updated. And then the actionable items, approve the send proposed non-match grant to appropriate committees. And then later on the first reading of appropriations for 2025.
Safety did put an outline together for budget. I worked with Stephanie on.
Yeah.
But we will talk about it at safety, just in case there's something else.
Okay. I guess with that, with that grant list, we do have it, like by committee, right?
Yeah, Christie's
Yeah.
got it spelled out.
And does anyone have any, objection to kind of how that was split up? I know there was maybe a little overlap even.
There's a couple of committees that are on both, but
Yeah.
should be able to work together as long as it's not in a timely manner.
Yep. So, then appropriations is under new business, so we'll get to that. Community development and public affairs met on the 15th.
Oh, there it is. Fred, Jessica, myself, Jenny, and Brittany were attending that meeting. Basically, entire meeting was devoted to brainstorming possible projects, utilizing the non-match grants from the list that would be under the purview of the Community Development Committee. And I attached a second page with the 5 or 6 that were 6 or 7 for us. Everything from the, Main Street revitalization, rather than read through the whole thing. Because you put another one out that has more of the
Details, yeah.
more details on it. So,
Yeah, the Christie one was, so what I did, there was I listed out the grants that I think I sent you guys last week that had like some very basic, like idea lists from previous discussions. And then I sent that to Christie as like, hey, is this correct? Is this what you researched as well? And then she put together that document with a little more details, the max fund and all that stuff for the committees. So.
So, yeah. So unless you want me to go through what we came up with here, I don't know what's the possible thing.
I think it's in that document.
It's all in the
There's
document.
it all in it.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it was kind of, most of those were mainly focused on how we can improve downtown and,
Most of them were downtown, yeah, practically all of them, other than, the site, for the vacant properties, the site realization, everything else was, yeah, basically downtown development.
we had the West Sports Initiative Board. The 16th.
Attendance was Janetti Zamarripa, Luann Hunt, Dennis Sauter, Rachel Beard, myself, and Jessica Souza. The adult league is ending on November 3rd, so they request the utilities be turned off November 5th. During that discussion on when to turn off the utilities, they also discussed what to store in the maintenance building. Mr. Sauter reported on the Otsego Town Ball situation and how they're restructuring and working with teams on changes. The board was told that the sign up for next year's season will start super early. It will start actually November 1st and online. The board will do an in-person sign up, but like kind of as a, this is your last chance to sign up thing in January 25th, I believe. They unanimously decided the scholarship program will continue into the next year. So they were really happy with how that went. Chairman Zamarripa commented that the sponsor letter will go out at the beginning of the year. So keep an eye out if there's any businesses listening for that. The board agreed that the coaches meeting will be in February and opening day will be in May. So they're kind of making their timeline the next year. The financial report revealed the board brought in 16,000 and spent 18,000 for the year. Janetti and Luann pointed out that that was probably due to buying like all new equipment and startup costs for everything as they started from scratch and a lot of stuff this year. They will be meeting in November with a lawyer to discuss the nonprofit transition. And the board received an update on the progress made by council in their journey to become a 501c3 and split off. The council and committee discussions on the contract and what is going to be in the contract were shared by me and Jess in the meeting, and tried our best to answer their questions and take down questions that they had for us. They are aware of the timeline being stretched out due to how far apart our meetings are and how much it has to bounce back and forth between different things. And their next meeting will be Wednesday, November 20th at 5:30. The only thing for us is to turn off the utilities by November 5th. That's their only actionable item, which I made Steph aware of that.
All right, that's not a problem, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Got my reminder right next to my mouse.
All right, thank you. Upcoming meetings, this month yet, we have Public Works tomorrow at 6. We have a special ball committee, the 24th at 6, and safety on the 29th at 6. Okay, new business. Has everyone had a chance to look at the 2025 appropriations ordinance? All right, yeah, so like we had kind of went over from our administrative process notes there, we kind of try to take everyone's suggestions from, you know, streets and cemetery and stuff and make sure that all those line items fit. As far as like general fund and administrative, we made more money available for an additional part-time person next year. And so like they had said, we're also working on kind of updating those descriptions for those employees. So there'll be a little bit of work put into that. So we can still flesh out some details there. But it seems pretty well-rounded. And of course, this is first reading. And so if there's any, you know, additional work that needs to be done to it, just bring it up and make us aware. Any questions off the top of your head?
Is Parks and Rec the same as it was this year?
I believe so.
Last year, they were $10,000 on their budget and I got 12,500. I was just curious what the $2,500 increase was for that. I mean, we had $20,000 increase for the sheriff's department, which was kind of new. So, of course, the wage increases by the state, we kind of knew. I'm just curious why that one was increased. Was it increased?
No, I think
It was just on the line.
current is 12,500 and then this for 2025 is also 12,500.
Yeah. It also includes like some
The
liability.
year
insurance
before
and-
was
2023 was 10,000.
10,000 and that was increased when we added a repairs and maintenance line item for Harold.
Right. The money that the board has available to work with is exactly the same. Well, in fact, it's exactly the same.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because, you know, we've got increases on the sheriff's department, we got increases here, and then we're trying to put a second part-time person, you know what I'm saying? Is there any way we can, I mean, do we have the money to do all this stuff, right?
Yeah, that was fit in there, pretty nicely. I think it almost doubles what was available from last year, for part-time help.
Oh, pretty.
So like I said, we're still working on those descriptions, and so I imagine that we'll still, be working on some of the details of that, but yes, it does
I just
include.
know because sometimes this, after a conversation with the cemetery and this and everything, and I know I brought it up a couple times to kind of utilize that same person to help benefit that,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of the idea that we have in mind, for sure.
I would like to see further discussion on Parks and Rec as far as that, including some actual maintenance, repair and things of that nature out of that budget.
Is that not in the budget?
It is, yeah, the administrator has,
I would like.
I mean, I got notes on it from last year.
Before we approve the appropriations for the things that are gonna be done with that money.
okay,
I think
it's-
that's only fair.
yeah, it's available for review. I mean,
Has the budget been set? I mean, has somebody presented a budget against the
You want
appropriations?
you want a budget as far as to what their budget is for all their yearly events?
I want to know that and what is going to be spent on maintenance and upkeep.
Are you looking at a comparison as to what was spent this year?
Yeah,
So you more or less want to see what they did this year and want to have word in whether. we
within their
change it.
budget, I want to see what they have for events. I want to see what they have for repairs and maintenance.
And or any type of match grant for like the
Yeah.
pickleball court or we were trying to do that revitalization down there at the old basketball.
Pickleball court, we've already approved that match.
yeah, and that would be,
Does that come out of that or come out of the general
it
fund?
would come, well, it all comes out of the general fund, but that would be capital outlay is the line item that we have there. And I think that's already sectioned out.
Yeah, it's right there.
I don't see it.
There's that additional, spreadsheet with that. It should, if your guys's,
It's
folder populates like mine does with that appropriation ordinance, there should be a PDF spreadsheet that has each line item broke down with a notes section that kind of describes, what that line item is typically used for. And then any like extra discussion that's had, kind of like the capital outlay one, we had approved that match for the nature works. So that one says,
Expected to match is $8,000. I mean, I read it.
yep,
I think right now, Rob, that line item is for like general repair and maintenance, like kind of as needed. Are you?
I'm wondering whether they participated in the budget process.
Oh,
Parks and Rec participated.
if they submitted their wish list, you mean, like every other?
I'm not even talking wish list. I'm talking about what they need to maintain the parks.
I think okay.
So there's probably gonna be,
Come from that administrator. Yeah, it's a little different because they're an appointed board, they're not elected officials, so we give them the
No, an
budget and they
appointed
decide.
board is responsible to present the budget for us to approve.
I think from what I took what discussion from is they're happy with their allotment.
I think what he's referring to is if they need mulch or they need parts to fix the swings, or if a swing set needs replaced, are they looking at those items to be on that budget? I think that's what he's asking.
There's all kinds of things that
Yeah, and
they're involved with from that standpoint that they're supposed to be making decisions on. And this is a long-term dispute that we've had. The fact that other rec boards operate a lot differently than what this one does. And I'm just looking to,
I just know it was like part of our itinerary last Public Works meeting about the PEP analysis for the side, the side railings and the back railing for the bleachers. Is that something that's gonna come out of capital outlay? Or is that something that's gonna come out of the Park and Recs fund? So I better could wrap my head around how I, in general, as a public works, is gonna address the situation that our insurance company says, we have to do this. They didn't have to do it for the 20 years that those bleachers have been there, but all of a sudden somebody said, we have to meet this requirement. Whom takes?
They say we had to meet the requirement, or are they suggesting that?
I think it's probably just a suggestion if I had,
I don't
yes.
think we have to meet the requirement.
Anytime,
Well, I mean,
it's up for interpretation though,
I mean, that's something that just came up. Certainly that's not, reflected in their current budget.
I
The way
guess,
parks and rec boards and other municipalities and whatever operate, they operate on levy money.
Ours is not correct. Yep.
Yeah, it does not. And we're gonna run into a situation eventually
Mhm.
that if we don't get this thing set up to a point that just spending this money over and over and over again for the same thing, the taxpayers would like, I myself as a taxpayer would like some accountability from the standpoint that if they don't vote for a levy, that tells you exactly what the people want and don't want their money spent on. We're sitting here making decisions on spending their money for them and they have nothing that they're saying about it. And I don't care whether somebody maintains that you've got the majority on one side and the minority on the other. I think that people should be able to be heard and concerned about the taxpayer money just being spent by us. It's been in papers and everything else, parks and rec levies, whatever, up on November's ballot in a lot of the towns. And it's yes or no for increasing the funds for it, or increasing the funds through the levy that they already have.
Okay. I don't think they were looking to increase anything. And I suppose
It's,
if
you're
you're,
still not answering it.
okay.
You're not answering the fact that it should be levy driven rather than us throwing money at it.
I think that's a personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is not a personal opinion.
I think that's a personal.
It is not a personal opinion. It's what is read through all the other municipalities. I can cite you on a number of different ones. I can bring them in the next meeting. And it says that if you want events like that, that should be done by friends of Parks and Rec.
Where does it say that?
I'm saying that's the way the programs are set up in other towns where they're being responsible for the taxpayers' money. It's easy to put programs on when you're spending somebody else's money.
It looks like they only have
Wasn't awful to be
$1,000.
Out here spending taxpayer money, of taxpayers out here enjoying what was being done.
Craig, what I'm telling you is that people should have the ability to vote yes or no on what they want. And they don't have that ability.
It looks like they only have $5,000 for supplies and materials, which is event materials.
I don't
But
care
then-
what the amount is.
But then it also says $3,000 for park and event equipment. That's
Right.
what I'm the events, I think, I'm not criticizing.
I think the
I think they're doing
bleachers
okay. I'm talking about,
would come out of repairs and maintenance.
well,
instead of-
that's what I'm trying to figure out. What comes out of repair and maintenance? Where are we at on that budget, things of that nature. The mulch, we don't get this grant. Do we put mulch down? Is that going to
Yeah,
come?
where's that coming from?
Those are the things that
Where's it
I
coming?
would like to better understanding.
I suppose if there's suggestions for any of those things, they can be brought to Parks and Rec or Public Works. I mean, that's public, land.
I think I have a couple questions just to understand the conversation a little better. So, and it, because there is like a disconnect between what I'm hearing for me personally. Are you asking to see the line items and potentially add line items and break it down further?
No, I'm looking for what their budget, what they are going to do with their money. And how much of it is going to be spent on maintenance and repairs and whatever else is needed.
So I guess
Rather than putting on events.
my questions and my thoughts on that is that they don't get to choose. From my understanding, they don't get to choose all of those things. They get to choose as far as events, but the administrator has a say in maintenance and what needs maintained and what needs fixed. It's not just a Parks and Rec board decision. It's a joint.
The decision as far as if they want to put something new in. If they feel as though that something down there needs to be
And they would
replaced.
have to work within their budget that they have.
Right, we set the budget, they put in a wish list, we accommodated for that. Well, everyone put in a wish list and we accommodated the budget for those wish list items. Some people aren't getting what they asked for. But I guess I'm missing what you would like to see outside of a levy next meeting. Like, it sounds to me like you're looking for something, and I just want to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for. But what I hear you asking for, and in my understanding, is a list of line items, which we already have. So if it's something more than that, that's where my disconnect is, and I just need more details.
But their line items, were they involved in providing that line item?
It's administrative process that provides that, and council approves.
Committees take direction from council to look at something and make a determination,
Right, we're
Or there.
recommending these appropriations.
but nothing came to us.
It's here right now.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah, well, before we get to that and we approve something, and I have a number of residents asking me, why did you approve that? I want to know what it is. I want to know exactly what it is.
I think what Rob's trying to ask is, how involved they were in how that amount was set. And I know in my maybe administrative process, I had explained that only safety and public works were the ones that, participated, submitted wish lists, and cemetery. Everybody else did not. And with Public Works, that one was more detailed into the 75,000 for the roads aspect.
You know, my concern is really what comes to public works that we see on our agenda, like the sidewalk, I mean, not the sidewalk, but the siding and stuff for the bleachers and things of that nature. At what point, which budget come out of? Everything comes out of capital outlay is what you're saying, when it comes to stuff like that. It's not coming, nothing's really coming.
As far as the side,
I'm just saying, if we were supposed to do those bleachers, siding things.
I don't think it would come out of, I don't think it would
come
come out of capital outlay.
It would come out of that.
Imagine it would come out of repairs for the park.
The maintenance budget for the park.
That would be my guess.
And I know sometimes, there can be those, extremes, I guess, where we would have to amend, kind of like we did with the Hometown Heroes. We weren't expecting to do something like that. We never had that built in, but we amended to build that in. Like, sometimes you're not gonna know what kind of, I don't know, major repair, but the small ones definitely are part of certain line items, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it was just, kind of no change from last year, just similar budget to what we did last year. And there is a certain amount in there that allows for repair, to equipment. And then of course, we should, make sure that we're on top of the Wood County Parks grant again this year. That's always an opportunity to,
Well, the question
Upgrade.
is, if you don't get that grant,
Mhm.
you still got to put mulch in. Where's that? Where's it in your line item?
I don't think we have a line item for mulch.
Well, but it's parks. That's what we spend the money on. That's my whole point.
You know, because and I'm not trying to pick on parks, is what I'm saying, but at Public Works, there was a conversation of the porta johns. If they should be put under that budget, because it says it was killing their budget, blah, 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 or the ball program, whatever budget it came from. Those are the things that I need clarification on what we are trying, what's coming out of what, right? I mean, I just need to know where they're at, and then like
Are in the park budget.
but they don't want it in the park budget. They want it coming out of,
I thought they didn't want it in the sports
It's
initiative.
sports
sport
initiative.
initiative.
I don't know that.
It's-
but I'm just
it's
talking
listed
things of that
here.
nature.
It's listed here in the.
I
park
can,
budget.
I can read.
I know, that's what I'm.
But my reading is not the point.
Yeah.
The reading is what line item comes from what. I'm reading the same thing you're reading. I get it.
The general fund right there.
Because some,
just-
no, I see what
No,
you're saying.
I don't need nobody undermining me. I'm just-
We sent Porta Johns, yes, they come out of Parks and Rec, but there is a discussion going to Public Works because the Sports Initiative Board has been paying for their Porta Johns, but they are part of the park system. So there is an item on your
Sure.
agenda to discuss whether that goes through parks with the rest of the Porta Johns or whether they continue
And
to
that's my
pay
whole point.
for theirs. It's
Now you're getting to the point.
yeah, it's up for discussion. That's what we need to decide if we're taking, if they're gonna pay for one, if they're gonna pay for two, or they're gonna pay for none. And whatever they're not paying for, that moves to Parks and Recs.
And that's exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about, that nobody has any clue yet as to what
And
those expenses are gonna be.
I refer to like the Public Works when we had to bank money for road project. We asked permission to bank that money to carry over to make for a bigger project. I'm curious if it's 12,500, they're spending 12,500, and I don't care what they're spending it on because they have a board. It's what I care about is, are they holding anything back for a project or is it automatically come out of capital outlay?
Well,
How does that project come out?
their budget doesn't work that way. So if they don't spend it, it just goes away. I mean, it's just reappropriated
It doesn't roll over. It doesn't.
next year. Yeah, there's
That
no,
was for
no
us to
fund.
roll over, for Public Works to roll over that money was a special deal.
But we have that opportunity. We're gonna come back on a thing.
Are you? The chair of administrative policy process, which was able to come and come and kind of work that out.
so are you suggesting that someone put a value on park equipment replacement and like mulch?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what Parks and Rec is supposed to be doing. That's their assets. That's what the village taxpayers paying for. That's what they're already paying for. And I don't believe they're getting it. Because we're looking at grants to put mulch in. Well, again, that's something that has to be done. I mean, you may not get the grant. I'm hoping like hell we do. But yeah, $12,000 worth of mulch to bring it up to the standards that the insurance company is saying we should be at. I don't see it in your line item.
Yeah, the line items are general maintenance and repair, insurance and liability and
Yeah, but mulching is general
Depends.
maintenance. He's done every year.
4 weeks every other year. I agree.
I'm just saying, if you need more money in Parks and Rec, then you better get a levy on the ballot and let's do it the right way. That'll tell you whether or not that's what the people want. It's the way it's done. I mean, you wouldn't appreciate it if the school board were sitting over there and saying, hell, we're gonna put up a new building because we have some money. You wouldn't like that because they're spending your money without you actually having something to say about it.
okay.
Just a point, just an example.
Could move the discussion to administrative process.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it fits better there than, you know, a board of volunteers. For sure.
Parks and Rec boards are charged with that type of stuff. Not necessarily committee makes all the decisions.
Can I have
Those
one thing?
decisions should come back to here, to council.
Can I have one thing?
Yeah.
I believe it was last summer, the Weston Business Council attended a community development meeting where we discussed community buy-in, getting community buy-in. The rec board has a budget of which we are investing in the community to get buy-in.
Mhm.
And we did that over the weekend. So I know that maybe there is concern in the community about money being spent on these events. But if we want community buy-in, this is the investment we're making.
Community buy-in comes not necessarily just from taxpayer money. Community buy-in comes from the fact that.
We have to have skin in the game somewhere.
No, I understand. Let me make a suggestion though. The suggestion is that when we had the extravaganza in town and we had Weston Days in town and everything else, village didn't pay for that. That was all done by donations and volunteers. That's your friends of Parks and Rec. That's where that comes in. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Community buy-in comes in a couple different ways.
And donations and volunteerism is hard to come by these days.
Well, but
Village is investing.
that's still not an excuse
I agree. with
to force the issue.
I guess another thing I'm confused on, we got in our folders today, the revenue and the appropriations expenses broken down. We get it every council meeting. I don't see that Parks and Rec went over. So that's another part of my confusion because you're talking as though they're over, we need levy.
No,
But
it's
I'm
not over. I'm saying to make it operate the way that other villages, municipalities actually work. Go talk to Haskins and find out what their Parks and Rec thing is.
I understand that, but I also understand Bowling Green has a separate Parks and Rec that is
Mhm.
huge.
Yes, it is.
But they have a larger municipality, they have a larger park system.
I'm not comparing it to Bowling Green.
Haskins has per capita, their people make more money than any other municipality in this area.
Parks and
So,
Rec puts nothing on over there. Parks and Rec only pays for the maintenance of their parks.
Do they have any,
but they're not
what do they do?
comparable.
So would you
They are comparable.
rather it be that way?
I would rather that the taxpayer gets to make the decision.
I mean,
They're not.
they do get to make that decision by voting for council members who put these documents in these
That's
budgets.
the way it's supposed to
Together.
work. Everybody needs a civics lesson at that point in time. That's not entirely how that's supposed to work. I'm sorry.
I've seen,
There is tax revenue that they vote on and that they give us to be able to operate this village on. Plain and simple.
I've seen no legal opinion that says that we can't do that with our general fund.
Well, we'll find out.
Randy?
Is it appropriate to say that the Parks and Rec budget is for events, for facilitating, sponsoring events?
Part of it.
And that the property maintenance of the parks falls under different portion of the budget.
Yeah, and see, it's
It's a convoluted.
it's a little. I mean, yeah, so we do have some line items for lands and buildings, right? And all of our parks and, you know, our buildings and, you know, where our salt, building is, right? You know, we have lots of lands and buildings. And so when we like mow the parks and stuff, it's coming out of their lands and buildings. And then we do have a separate set of line items for Parks and Rec. And it's 12,500 in total. Some of that is insurance and liability. Some of that is, porta pots. There's a section of it that the administrator can use to, fix a swing and, do this or that. And then there's a couple different line items that we give to our Parks and Rec board to do things in the community with.
So the $5,000 supply of materials, and I'm looking to the right of the line, it says miscellaneous park items and event materials. That's what that comes in. So their events are within a budget of $5,000.
Mhm.
And that's the one, because.
No, it
Well, it's
also
a little bit
includes the
more than that.
equipment, so it's 8,000. Because it includes if there's any equipment, but it also includes park equipment.
Yeah.
So it's like park and any programs or events that they put
And in
on.
the past, they have put in some equipment, like they put in the Gaga ball and the volleyball. And I would assume if there's any suggestions, on, upgrading and refreshing stuff, that could, be brought to that committee as well. And if I guess if the point is that
That's
we've,
not a committee, that's Parks and Rec board, you're saying.
the board, yeah. And if I guess if you're pointing out that maybe there's, some things in there that we should be budgeting for, like mulch, then I think that's a good place in
I'm-
process.
Once again, I'm not opposed on any events they're having. I'm making
Right.
sure that, one, they're following their budget. And you're saying it could be close to $7,000, whatever. I don't care. That they
They work within that, yeah.
work within that, but if they decide they want to purchase like the Gaga ball thing or something along that line,
Mhm.
they actually have the reserve money to go get it. And to me, that's only
If
seven.
they don't have that money, they have to make the next year.
Mm,
Or make an
Or
ask to
request.
council, yeah.
It comes here.
Very appropriate. What we could do is just add a mulch line item. If mulch is gonna be $12,000, the entire budget, why don't we just add another $12,000 in if it's that important?
Then it's another $12,000 that comes out of something else that we've already budgeted for.
Yeah, because right now your revenue,
They're really,
Isn't-
they're really tight. anyway.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
pretty tight.
And that's exactly what my point is.
I was trying to more worry about so we can better.
Yeah, okay, so we'll bring that to administrative process.
Because if we have to pay 12,000 for mulch, that means we don't even have $3,000 to repair equipment if equipment breaks. Like we could have a broken swing set, but real nice mulch right underneath.
Yeah, but it'll save you in liability when somebody gets hurt.
On the broken swing set, no.
Okay,
don't even have-
all right, so we're gonna send that to administrative process. All right, so
Did council decide to send that to administrative process?
I motion to send that to administrative
I
process.
asked it, yes.
Well, I didn't hear anybody vote on it.
okay, so we have a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Does that cover the-
yeah, if there's any other discussion,
We haven't moved from appropriations.
then,
That was only the second block. Okay, so.
That is the first line item. No, I'm kidding.
What other budgets are you waiting on based on appropriate?
So what I did, and this is what I did when I put the thing out to everybody, is if you do not have your wish list or chose not to participate, and you don't have it to either me or administrative process by our October meeting,
November.
the same amount that was used in the previous year, if it fit, will be used again. Those that did participate, we were able to fine tune better. But those that didn't, it just stays the same, or they have the chance of having money taken from them.
See, I'm looking when we participated for the $75,000, but now I'm trying to figure out what, like the bleacher thing. I'm just thinking of all the parks and lands things that comes out of my budget.
I think, okay, there was an insurance liability assessment,
The risk assessment.
risk assessment. One of them was to put guardrails,
And side rails
back rails
on
on.
3-foot bleachers.
I don't believe that is coming out of parks. Of public.
What does it come out of Public Works? Now does that mean, or you don't think?
I kind of took your suggestion was we haven't had it for a long time, so.
Well, yeah, that's my point is, but somebody says we have to have it, then if we don't, how's our insurance rate gonna go up if we don't have it? And, those are the things that we need to talk about in our meetings, but we gotta clarify what purview our meetings fall under, what really budget it comes out of, right? I mean.
Well, the other thing that kind of concerns me is the fact you had brought up, I think at the last meeting, the risk assessment was talking about the fact that our insurance doesn't cover events.
Oh, yeah, it's the,
Not
The-
events, but
yeah,
Bounce house.
markets or bounce house, right?
yeah, the insurance came back as they're processing our renewal because we know that this is that time. And they noticed that I had marked a box that typically isn't marked, which was for bounce houses because we purchased a bounce house this year. And they were like, hold on,
So we're
this
still,
needs supplements. And I'm still waiting to hear back more because I kind of explained to them how that's typically used, what they do. And then, also on that questionnaire, it's not just bounce houses. It's fireworks, alcohol, farmers markets, and the bounce house.
I know when the festival, the fireman's thing, we had to come back and get approval, then we also, for the township, through our thing, we also had to get insurance, so I mean, that was
Which I did have, I had a question because it says you have to get an additional insurance policy for those things. And my question was, is it a temporary, like, can you get it, say, we're having a festival?
Yeah,
Can we get it and cancel it type of thing?
that's what
Get
I
it and hold.
have out to them, explaining how, how they do their programs. Is this something that based on its scope is covered, or if we do for every event have to get this special insurance? So that's what I'm kind of waiting on more
Well, if you're planning events
information.
for each month, then you better have the insurance for the
Mhm.
full year.
And we're getting quotes and we'll be.
Yeah, I'm working on having them explain that in more detail
Yeah, I'd like a
because,
lot more
Mhm.
explanation because I don't see a difference between farmers markets and events from that standpoint.
Would it be any event hosted by any board?
Yeah.
Because there is currently 2 boards hosting events in
There's
the village.
I think more than 2. There's plenty. Very
True.
ball.
Wasn't supposed to make it technically.
well, the
every
ball
time they
pays
do
for
a-
their insurance,
But, like,
right? I
they're-
mean,
Their
Opening day
opening
parade.
day.
oh, yeah.
They will.
They had inflatables at that.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll have that information to bring back to administrative process.
It all comes at an expense, folks. And you're already saying it's pretty tight.
We can review it.
Hey, Steph, can you just help us clarify what, wish list, is that a budget?
not necessarily. It's a way for us to put numbers on that budget. So let's say Harold had a specific item. It was like $800 that he wanted built in. It's not in their typical, let's say he gets 5,000 each year for equipment. But this next year he needs a special piece of equipment that doesn't fall within that. So we have to find a way to build that in. Similar to when they need a new lawnmower, we have to find a way to build in that way. Does that make sense?
And if it's on the wish list, but we don't have the money for it, they don't get it.
Yeah, if it doesn't, if there's no way to fit it in, then yeah,
They don't get it.
yeah.
It's just,
It's not always gonna be built in. It just depends on how it fits in with what our revenue is expected to bring in.
and it's just it's a way for us to look at our appropriations and make sure they're covering what we need and want.
Right, but you should have a predictable budget. I would think that would include that for the following year if you're doing it in the previous year. That's.
Okay.
And we certainly do it. We base it on the previous year and kind of general expenses, and then, like Stephanie said, if there's something out of the ordinary, we try to identify that and build that in if possible.
Is there a new mower in the budget?
No,
When's that get built in?
we'd have to,
After the new deck wears out. 'Cause we just bought a new deck for the mower.
You don't have long.
we'd have to have further discussion on that.
I'm giving you a
Well, but that's the whole point about all this.
I'm sorry.
And actually, our mowers are spent most of their time in parks.
Okay.
That's- I mean, it's- So,
We're taking that back to committee. May actually do first reading on that, I'm sorry. All right, so this is an ordinance providing permanent appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the Village of Weston, Ohio through December 31st, 2025. That is first reading. Okay, and then we had a resolution 2024-20.
Paul drafted this up as an emergency. I don't know how quick we want to get the correspondence out to the other municipalities. So if you're not in a rush to get it out, then we don't have to do it as an emergency. But I think, I mean, like you had a call already. So I think if you get the information out now that there is another person interested, that we can kind of take lead in
Yeah.
getting that out. So.
Okay, so do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second.
All right, no roll call. Ms. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Easterwood,
what I was saying,
Ms. Souser,
Yes.
Mr. Meyerholtz, Mr. Babcock, and Mr. Warner.
Yes.
So this is a resolution nominating Rick Easterwood to the vacant seat on the 911 Program Review Committee, declaring an emergency. Any further discussion on that?
You do want to do it right.
Speak now.
it's on official documents. Add one more thing to my list.
It does say your name twice, so there's no getting around it. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve resolution 2024-20? Declaring an emergency. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Rick abstains. Has this council had a chance to review the bills?
It was brought to my attention that after the last meeting that Mr. Scaff had some questions regarding the 3G invoice.
Yeah, Mr.
I did look at the address on it. It is Rob's home address.
But my wife owns the business legally.
I understand.
Kendall's have done business with the village for years, and all Chad had to do was abstain. And that came from the state review at the time it was done. Because he got called for that. And it said that all he had to do was abstain. So if Mr. Scaff wants to see the legal documents that she owns the business, lock, stock, and barrel, I will be more than happy to provide it.
I believe the issue is with what is on the invoice.
What?
Their safety jackets for the committee that you share. I believe that is the issue.
I think it's also like in household significant other, I think was what he said was a concern. And I think Shad did get called out on it,
They
and
came
he,
back and said that all he had to do was abstain from paying the bills.
yeah, we'd have to look that up.
I'm asking. I was here when it was done.
What I would, for myself personally, I've voiced before in previous meetings that conflict of interest is a tricky line to tread. And I'd like to recommend conflict of interest training for all of us. I know we haven't went ahead with it. But I am it is a tricky line to tread and I am uncomfortable. So I would like to abstain from the vote at the very least.
You know, I'm also curious was this brought to committee?
Wait,
Jackets.
the check, no,
No, it was
that's
not.
the,
It was not.
Kathy made the
Kathy-
decision.
Kathy made the decision to do it.
I would like to know,
Committee doesn't have to approve
No.
where they buy those from.
No.
and I would like to know the discussion of how it was brought to use that business for those jackets.
Because it was used before.
Again, if someone says if somebody looks it over and says it's okay, that's different, but I'm not comfortable, so I'd like to abstain.
I will also say that.
I'm kind of lost.
Because last meeting, the invoice was voted on to pay and it was paid.
I know it's in the folders.
I apologize that.
No, it was Kathy was moved forward on it. That falls within her purchase policy.
I thought it was a proposal. I did not know it was a bill last time.
I didn't understand.
I mean, yeah.
It was in your bill
Yeah.
packet. That's why I abstained.
Well, and I understand that it was brought later that Paul had an issue with it. And the more that
The more
the
information.
more I looked into it, then I kind of questioned whether.
There was more revealed after the meeting, after the vote.
So is that purchase in our bills?
Yes.
There's an
It is.
invoice of the,
It's been paid as
Yeah.
of the 27th.
Is the product completed?
Close to it. They're being shipped.
Do,
Have Mr. Scaff call me and tell me.
I don't know what to do, so I personally like to be on record with my discomfort and
Well, then you better not be doing anything with Kendall's.
Rob, I just want more
Wait a minute,
information.
we can't do anything with
Kendall is-
Kendall.
Kendall is
Kendall can do
not
something in
on
our house.
council.
They can't do anything.
Well,
Kendall's not on council.
but that's what I'm saying. At that time, they were doing the work here and everything else.
And I wasn't on at that time.
Yeah.
This is a current, this is where we are today.
I know that Kendall stopped doing work at one point.
They didn't.
Said I'd have to,
Stop.
Yeah,
Because they didn't do the furnaces until after he was off council.
No, he was still on
here.
council. The situation there was that, he abstained. I think I remember Paul looking into that one because what we got 3 quotes for it and Kendall still came in, which made that acceptable. It also depends on the scope of the work on how it fits in as a conflict or not.
I mean, for me, last meeting, Paul was here. You did say your wife owned it. I went ahead with the vote because I was under the impression that general atmosphere was all good. But then as the more information came out, your business home address, you are the chair of the board, it's your wife, all of these things. Again, it's a tricky line to tread. And all of the
I got nothing
trainings.
to hide. It's
I
not tricky for
know,
me.
I know that, but all the trainings that I have taken at my past jobs, it's one of those, you watch it and then you take the quiz and when you think you're in the right, you're not always in the right. Like it is, and that's where I'm like, I don't know where I fall in this, but I don't want to fall in the wrong. I rather know that we're good to go and in the right than not. And that's all I'm saying right here, right now, is that I'm not positive that we're 100% good. I'm not positive that we're 100% not. I
Can I ask a
don't know.
question? And I'm just, because now we've talked about Shad, Kendall, we've talked about Rob. And I'm just curious, who makes all the signs for the village?
They get donated.
Oh, they get donated, but
there's nothing paid for
there's
them.
none of the signs for events
They-
don't get paid for.
they don't
Nope.
pay.
Right?
I'm sorry.
No,
That's
that's-
where I found, and I don't feel
Let
comfortable.
me know, I'll cancel the order.
Does anybody plan on arranging for this training that you're talking about?
I'm asking for it again.
Is that something that's appropriate to?
I motion that we get conflict of interest training for everyone on council and potentially everyone on committees as well.
Staff.
Staff.
Should we bring that to a committee to figure out the details on that? Is that fair?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so a motion to look into that training through administrative process. We can,
Well, the elephant in the room, is he going to cancel, is he going to have his wife cancel the order for the jackets because,
well, do we
got
want,
approved? But then I'm not, that's what I guess. They
It's
got
already
approved.
paid.
Yeah, there's already a check out there. I mean, I could probably look at it's probably been cleared too.
do we have a motion to separate that bill from the rest of the bills?
But the bill's already been paid.
As far as approving the bills
Oh.
today, I motion to separate that bill.
I second it.
All in favor?
All right,
Mhm.
slow that down because when you did it last meeting, it was a lot. I mean, honestly, I know you're counsel and I can't
Let's,
suggest your vote. It's probably just easier to abstain than try and separate the bill, put the bill back in, pay the bill and all the back. But I can take the note on it, just do it slower.
I think separating the bill allows for the rest of the bills to be voted on regularly. And if there's concern with one bill, then let's separate that concern. Does that make sense?
Then we're going to vote on that one bill and then he's going to abstain anyways.
I would
What I did the last.
see how it goes, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, then am I right? You guys have already done it. He's already abstained.
Yeah.
We're going to do it again and separate the bill that was already voted on and he abstained just to do it again.
We did last time. Why would we not do it
I
again?
have
There
This
was-
is just the summary of what was paid.
Summary of what's paid. It's
I
not
have-
that you're asking.
I have a potential suggestion as far as that project. And I don't know how relevant it is or not. But when we came into extreme conflict with a project prior, we put it on hold. Is there any way to not cancel it, but just put it on hold and get more information? Or just
It's special stuff that has to be done to those codes and everything that it's already done.
okay, well,
That's why they came, that's why Kathy came to me or us. I shouldn't say me, it's us. My wife's company is because she had the connections to be able to get it done. At a big savings,
So what you're saying, Stephanie, is the check has already been cut.
yes.
And probably cleared.
Yes.
All right.
So when your bill,
Will abstain. I mean, what's?
you have two bill folders. One is bills that need to be paid,
Yes.
invoices, whatever. The other one is a summary of bills that were paid that were approved last meeting to be paid. I know this is a mouthful. But it's a summary. That's just how we're required to present that to council. And then, or bills that, there's some bills, especially utility bills, Suburban Natural Gas is notorious for this, that they send a bill out and we don't have another meeting, so it needs to be paid. So there's bills like that in there as well.
So what you're saying is it was approved last meeting and therefore what we're approving to pay the bills is not necessarily that bill.
Yeah, it's when you do that section on the agenda, typically I have it broken down in two folders for everybody to look at and they can, ask questions on it specifically. But when you're approving it, you're approving both of those folders together. And if there is questions, that gets brought forward. But it is, so even when I write out the minutes, because each of those and the financial report has them split up on outstanding is this amount and what was paid is this amount.
so I guess that's where I got confused last time. Like, I know you're frustrated because, wait, why didn't you understand? But, so there was a period of time where we just had one folder.
Mhm.
And then we split them, and I knew that we split them. But when we approved the bills, you know, like you're saying, we approved them both, but now we're approving a bill twice.
Yeah, that's,
So,
You're not approving it twice. You're summarizing what was paid.
so we're really
Approved it
only,
last.
when we are being asked, when we're being asked to approve the bills, we're really just approving the one folder that hasn't been paid and the other ones for our information because we approved it the prior meeting.
well, so really,
This,
what I've been told is that all council needs to do is approve the summary of the bills. But for more transparency here, we have split them up. If that makes sense. Yeah, in a way, you're approving some of them twice, but not all of them were approved in a previous meeting because of situations like utility bills that come in. Payroll is another one. That one doesn't get prior approval. You have an ordinance in place that,
it's on the summary, that's.
so it's on the summary and you still technically have to approve that. That's why they're just done together, but split up for when you review them.
Okay. And we can take a vote. I'm gonna abstain. How you take the vote?
I think you already have a motion on the table to separate the 3G bill.
I seconded it.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Abstain.
So, motion to approve the bills minus the 3G bill.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You abstain from that vote as well?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's
I'm going
abstaining from all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the bills without.
Yeah, it's the bills without.
All right. And now motion to approve the 3G bill.
I so moved because it's done. It was brought up to a committee, not to a committee. It's by the chief person. Is no different than Harold buying stuff without our approval. She's got purview just like he does. So I vote yeah.
We have a motion second.
I abstain.
You can't.
I can't abstain from the second.
Right.
You gotta wait till the vote.
We're waiting in silence and I'm like,
That's awkward. Do we have a second?
Oh, I don't know.
Cool. Okay, so now what are we gonna do about the invoice that he's gonna have out on it that was approved by the head of EMS, not brought to committee?
Well, obviously we need to probably discuss it further with legal and kind of iron out some of the questions that Rob has. Or
Have Shelley figure out the restocking fee. Take it out of the EMS budget anyways. She made the call.
It's all custom. It's got Weston all,
Whatever.
You can't restock it.
Whatever the bill is gonna be, it was done by the EMS chief, no different than our administrator. It's purview. That's all I'm saying. So what are we gonna do? We're still gonna be out that money.
Good, relevant question.
sure.
If that bill's not gonna be paid, then won't there have to be?
It was paid though.
You're gonna say, restock them, right? Then the EMS doesn't get the codes.
Correct.
So then there will have to be a second order placed for the codes to another company. Will that have to be brought here first to get approval
No,
on the order?
no.
We didn't approve anything until the bill got presented to us last week. It was not brought up to a committee.
So if that didn't have to come here for approval in order to make the order with the first company, and it then can go out to another company, then
which is why I'm suggesting conflict of interest training for everyone, including the EMS, the committees, people who are utilizing contractors. Because as a government entity, it is a tricky situation. I don't know how to solve this. I can't say I have.
Yeah,
I'd rather,
EMS doesn't get the codes.
I mean, we're gonna have to sort it out with legal, I think.
I'd rather have Paul discuss it with Rob than Shelley if it has to be and report back. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
My whole thing here today was that I just realized that Paul had questions. The invoice does have Rob's address on it. And so therefore, I thought it should be brought up.
I'd just like more information.
In the long run, I think once Paul off of 3G, I think their EMS is going to be covered. But I'd like to just make sure.
Okay, so,
It's either that or you can talk to my attorney.
so further,
Either way.
all right, so we'll take
Are
Further.
are we reaching out to Paul first or are we just gonna, how are we gonna?
well, yeah, we need to reach out to Paul immediately.
Well, I mean, because you guys are asking Rob to talk to Paul or vice versa.
Well, no,
So who's gonna be the first point of
I
contact?
think
Oh, yeah.
you will be the first point of contact, right? Or
I certainly can. I can work with Stephanie to talk to him. Yeah.
and talk to Paul. And if Paul wants to talk to the management of 3G printing, then he can do that.
All right. Okay, we have some miscellaneous business. The Suburban Natural Gas Grant, Community Development Fund, Stephanie said $1,476. Does anyone have any suggestions?
EMS codes.
Great, too soon, man.
I don't think it's.
It's gotta be community development. I don't. In the past, we've done downtown beautification, like the flower pots, the street banners.
How has the,
We've probably put mulch in there. I'm sure mulch has probably hit every grant we've tried for, so.
$14 is not gonna go towards so
Nope.
much mulch.
did we do the CAT program?
Yep, last year we did the CAT program.
Still has a balance though.
Yeah, an update on that, at least through me, is nobody's taken advantage of it.
At all?
So it still sits the same.
No need to repeat.
I have told so many people and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then they just don't. I'm like, okay.
I wouldn't suggest funding it anymore until people start utilizing.
Like
I was under the impression it was being
Can we-
used.
How much is one of those speed signs? Am I qualified
I
for
think
that?
double.
About 3 a piece.
About half of them.
If we,
Buy just the 2 or the 5?
Do we just want to, I mean, we can, there's no.
You still
hurry
have
on that.
time to discuss it more.
Jeremy, do you remember how much that JPX quote was for the steps at the cemetery?
More than that.
I thought it was like 4 to 8.
Okay.
So I guess let's come to the next meeting with ideas, for that.
Okay.
Okay, citizens, we have Howard. Howard, anything for council?
Well, you guys are always talking about a conflict of interest. I think you better look around at some of these other things, the ball diamond and all this other crap you got going. You got a lot of conflict of interest in this town, but you guys don't want to look at it. You want to look at what you want, and what he wants. That's the way you work it. I'm getting goddamn sick and tired of it, to be real truthful with you. You're so goddamn crooked to have to screw you in the ground. And I'm not having a private meeting with you and her to discuss what I just said. That's it. The best thing you could do is you resign, and him resign. That's the best thing that could happen.
Mr. Betts, anything for council?
I think he resigned. Oh, yes. A man left for like going up in the air in the scissor hoist. I think you'll find if OSHA ever come through and seen us with a basket strapped into a backhoe and raising it up in the air, OSHA would not approve of that.
I will assure you, I had an employer that did the same thing. He told me I was fired before I hit the ground.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be doing that anyways.
I know that, but it's the only way we got to get up there, change, put the lights up, change bulbs, work on the signs.
You can rent one.
Huh?
You can rent one. You don't have to buy it.
Well, what does it cost to rent one and how often do you gotta rent it?
They're about,
Is it more feasible to have your own?
scissor lift is about $300 or $400 a day.
Do you need training for it?
Yep. Then you gotta go get it, take it back.
No, they'll deliver it for you.
For another $300, yeah.
Yeah, they charge for delivering.
Okay, 'cause-
I just wonder if there's any way they could purchase something like that, a man lift that does all that. You can use it for putting your flags, your banners and everything up. Flags, everything.
yeah, certainly,
Land out there at the ball diamond, out in the big field. You
Sure.
can get up there to work on that.
Gov Deals might have used ones too. I think this came up before and it was something about like the inspection
Right.
on some of those or inspection on them can be,
You touch it.
touchy.
Very touchy.
I seen some on there, on the Google thing, it was anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000.
okay, certainly something to look into. Thank you.
That could possibly be, if, EMS decides to use one of the other grants for the Lucas, that would be a safety, that could be a safe, under the safety grant, I would assume, because it's, you know, trying to keep you safe and keep OSHA out of here, so.
So if we ever called OSHA and turned you in, him and I'd be in a whole bunch of trouble. We would face a $10,000 fine apiece, not counting your fine.
Okay, something to look into for sure.
Yeah.
Randy, anything for council?
We haven't heard anything in a while. I'm just wondering if anybody's still working on it. Concerning the depot that you had an interest in relocating, or whether that's something that has been completely abandoned at this point.
We actually have a historical society meeting coming up Thursday. So we're in the final kind of stages of forming that organization. And I think we're looking for that organization to drive that.
Would you find a way to bring it to the townspeople before you find a way to spend the money?
Absolutely.
Please.
Which I think it should be specified that the Historical Society is a separate entity. It's not a legislative.
Yeah.
If they're separate, I don't care. If they have their own money, I don't care.
Well, I think that's what we specified from the beginning, is that we want to see some organization drive that.
But do you see what I'm saying? If you inform us that, okay, it's coming from, this group is funding it, they're taking care of the cost, it's not coming from taxpayers' money, then we understand that. Bring it on. If you want to go ahead and do that, bring it on. But if you're going to spend our money, please be willing to share what it is your plans are, so that we have a chance to be able to say yay or nay.
Yeah, that's still in the works, and I certainly don't want to speak, before that plan has been finalized.
Hear me, Aaron. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I need to know.
It's a case that everybody needs to hear, yeah. Not just the mayor.
Mr. Dallas?
Yeah, thank you. This is actually directed directly, I think, to you. I understand that we approved a apartment housing for the K&K church, and now we have a migrant camp. Can you explain to me how that happens?
I think what we approved was a zoning change
Based on what we were told.
from R1 to R2.
Based on what we were told, it was going to be an apartment housing, and I can go back to that meeting if you'd like to see it. But how would this become a migrant camp, and how do we prevent this in the future? Because it seems to be a nuisance to a lot of people.
I've not heard of it being a nuisance to a lot of people.
So stop over to the marathon when there's 50 of them lined up in front, drinking beer, passing it along, and completely engulfing that situation. So, Craig, if you don't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't happen, okay?
I didn't suggest that.
Okay, yeah, and I think Mr. Taylor is working on that as reported.
I don't think anything will happen.
Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, because I think his last,
Zoning change and that fits within the zoning.
well, Ken's last communication, what he's trying to get answers on is how the state went above our law and allowed that to happen. Is what Ken's trying to get questions on.
I would like to get answers as far as to
Or
why we were
answers,
told
not
that they had an architect that was putting 4 or 5 or 6 apartments in the thing. And we changed the zoning based on what we were told and then didn't get what we were supposed to get.
I agree. And
That to me is.
I think there is that many apartments in there.
No, it's a
No,
barracks.
it's not.
It's a barracks.
It's a barracks.
Dormitory.
I've been certified as a barracks.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, there's like 1, maybe 2 bathrooms in there with 50 people. There's got to be something against that, because if I had an apartment housing or any other house in this town, you would not allow that.
It was in Ken's report last time.
Yeah, Ken, there's an email that Ken has from the Ohio Department of, was it Health or Agriculture?
It's all fall under the agriculture.
And the permit that was issued to that building was for up to 36. I don't remember the specifics of the,
Okay, is
actually,
that
you know what?
legal?
I think it's in I think it's in those last minutes. Because Ken briefly touched on it.
Can I ask
um,
if that's legal or non-legal residents?
Yeah, I mean, they're legal.
They
They're,
all have green cards.
yeah.
Are they paying Rita? Are they paying the school taxes? Are they paying? So I'm just asking this question because I pay them.
According to someone on Facebook, yes, they are.
Oh, so
Which
tell me
is
who someone
beyond
is, Craig, before you make that
beyond our-
comment. Please tell me and educate me on who that person is if it's according to Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook's not
Well,
a
I
good.
just saw a post on there that said that that's what they were doing. I was under the impression she was connected to the situation.
Yeah, but we don't have no rental law in the village saying you have a resident or an owner, do we?
We.
I mean, I'm asking-
All of them are supposed to read.
Supposed to,
They're supposed
Yeah,
to
but I think
report.
Stephanie's had a hard time getting them to report.
yeah, but
I don't know how this one falls under there either, because that one's specific to landlords. I mean, yeah, he's probably a landlord in some capacity, but
Yeah,
with
what,
migrant housing, I think
Well,
it,
in R2, he's
true, yeah.
Um,
Under our code would fall under a,
what was reported last time is the Department of Health approved the site as an agricultural laborer camp, which permits 1 housing unit in a barrack/dormitory style, featuring common cooking, eating, toilet hygiene, and laundry facilities for up to 37 workers.
Yeah, but I think his question, is what did you vote on for him to do? Did you vote for him to put a barrack system in, or did you put a apartment?
Based on what he told us, we rezoned it as what you normally would. That's just did
As if it was-
approve the rezoning.
Separate apartments in there.
the vote was
So
to
what he said-
rezone, not specific to whatever details or information was given to that planning commission at the time.
it's a privately owned building business.
Right.
Which I feel is a misrepresentation and should not have been allowed. If I want to have a storefront here, I have to keep at least a certain amount of the storefront viable for storefront activity, but yet I can't make it an apartment building. So explain that to me, how he can have 37 residents in a church and I can't have 1 resident in a storefront.
I think it's
Those two are
federal
zoned
or
differently.
state law. I mean,
Is he not on the main street? I mean, is he not considered then Main Street
He's-
or?
No, he's an R2.
He's R2, Main Street is commercial,
Was it was R1 before?
yeah.
Yes.
Which was low density residential
Single
prior.
family.
It was not commercial prior, which downtown is.
Church has to be commercial. It's an income.
No,
No,
It can't be-
If it's an R1,
Church can be R1.
It was R1 prior and we changed it to
So-
RD.
So if I hire a preacher for a month and use my storefront as a church, can I do R1?
Well, you can also do a church in commercial. A church requires at least R1, which is the most basic zoning type in town.
I think doctors' offices also can fall into
Yeah.
R1.
And museums and schools, I think.
So my question is, when I tried to help this downtown situation that is desolate and dead, obviously, what are you going to do to help us make this better by your regulations that we can't abide by, yet we have 37 migrants at the end of the road?
I think those are two separate issues, I would say. We do have some
I
agenda
disagree.
items.
They're both businesses. So K&K has a business of those guys using labor. How is that separate? It's both business.
Yeah, from what I'm understanding is there's additional provisions from the state or federal level that allow him to do that. And
Okay.
so I
He's
think
only allowed to do that
think-
because
I think
you
Ken's
voted for what he had.
we voted to rezone it based on what he had.
yeah.
He
Because
wasn't
he was the department.
he wasn't allowed to do anything after that. If that's an ethical issue, that's outside of.
Yeah.
Okay, can you go back and take that back away from him now?
No.
No, because
No.
He did not renege on anything that was presented. He presented to take that particular church property from an R1 to zone it for R2 for a possible living apartments. That's what he basically said.
Apartments,
What's the difference?
not a.
There's no difference. We didn't get no layout. We didn't get no drawing. We are not,
I thought we did get a drawing.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but
It was preliminary.
That's the
Yes.
part we should have held him to, is a drawing or a blueprint to make sure that we understood what he meant.
I don't think,
I don't think we can put that kind of stipulation
Could we ask that?
on a
We
rezoning.
asked that in the special
I
meeting.
disagree.
Could we put a stipulation on it? And even Paul said. we're
Yeah.
not gonna-
Yeah, you can't put a stipulation on a rezoning like that. It just has to fall within the zone, the zoning regulations.
But Jeremy, you hold every storefront person responsible for an X amount of storefront versus living quarters.
No,
you
that was a variance. We are able to put some stipulations on variances. And that was a specific variance with one person who was able to prove that they had a special case because our downtown area, commercial area, which is specified in our zoning code, does not allow for first story residential. It only allows for second story, and his what's the word I'm looking for?
Building, property.
No, his issue was, or rather the reason that he was asking for variances, he doesn't have a second story on that building. And so that was the stipulation that was made with him for that particular building. That is not in effect any wider than that building. It's something that we've talked about implementing among other things for downtown. It's on our committee agenda.
So if I'm to purchase that building, what is my regulations as far as residency?
Does the zone, so your question is, does
Which building?
the single story?
The one you've been talking about for the last 2
Yeah.
minutes.
Does,
The
so,
variance stays with it. So if you were to purchase that property and you wanted to put a residential unit in the back, which is how that variance is set up, they have to have so many, I think it was square feet in the front. And then in the back, you can have your residential area. That variance stays with the property if it gets sold.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. We have no storefronts whatsoever here. And we have a variance that says you have to have X amount of square feet. Why are we holding this so true when we have nobody downtown?
In hopes.
Are you proposing,
In hopes of what?
are you proposing to put apartments downtown?
I'm saying that it's open that variance at least to bring residents to the downtown.
I think
So
I'm,
why don't we rent these
I'm
out?
actually in agreement with Ron on that.
We got to bring people into this town. It's a dead damn town. You go down through Sunday and there's weeds just rolling down the road.
There was a big crowd there on Saturday night.
Well, I totally agree. That was great to see. Absolutely great. But they don't live downtown.
No, but I would say also, I just want to add that Porky's, people were coming in and out of Porky's the entire time I was downtown.
And Porky's benefits from everything we do because they're the only business in town. So let's bring residents in town. Let's make the main street a little more lively by opening up the ordinances. At least, I mean, if you have to do, I don't even know, but I'm not going to buy a place downtown if you have to have a storefront that I can't fill and I can't do anything with and I can't sell anything. Why the hell would I want to buy a building downtown in Weston?
I hear your question and I think there's arguments on both sides of that for sure. And it requires further discussion. And that I think would best be talked about in committee.
Which I'm not part of.
You're more than welcome to come to any committee meeting.
Okay. What committee?
Community development.
Yeah, community development.
Who's ahead of that? Just so I know.
Dean.
And Dean, can I ask you out front, what's your opinion on that situation before I even waste my time?
I'm not going to be wasting your time. I probably need to be brought up on it as well, because, I'm not, I don't know all the rules and regs for it. But, I'm willing to talk to anybody, and I don't have any preset, any decisions on that. I need to hear everything and, see what we have come together.
I'll address you personally then, because we have the Masons. We have a lot of storefronts here that people personally own.
Well, yeah, we got a new business that's gonna open up here November 1st. So, I mean, place isn't dead yet.
What's that business?
Pardon me?
What business? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The
Horns and halos.
Horns and halos.
I'm very well aware of that. But that's not a new business. It's an old business that recreated itself. So that's not new. That's.
It was a bar, now it's a bar.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
yeah, so, I mean,
exactly.
we can't do anything without a conversation. Come down and talk. We'll see what, educate everybody, see where
Sounds
we're
like
at.
this guy wants to take a storefront, put a business in it, and then build an apartment for it in the back so he can live in it and still run his business.
No, I don't think he wants to put a business in it. I think he wants to
No, you
put
can,
apartments in it.
that's what you can currently do with that property. Due to variance. I think Ron is suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, but allowing unrestricted residential in our commercial downtown.
It is, but Jeremy, I prefer to make it a business of some sort, truthfully, in the front and try to
Sure.
revive this town. I mean, that's my sole purpose.
Yeah,
I just don't think that what we have today will work for the people that own these businesses. They're not even liable for what they have or don't have. Nobody holds them accountable for the storefronts that don't operate.
Well,
So
and
if I was to start a business, I would expect maybe a tax break because nobody else does it.
There was a proposal brought to community development to charge business owners that did not have or property owners that did not have some sort of storefront or at least a for sale sign to charge them a fee. Yearly? Was it yearly?
And yeah, Greg, can I tell you, I think I'm the one that brought that up at one meeting.
Yeah, someone else brought it up to me, so, or
Okay.
brought it in.
But I
yeah,
think-
that was brought to us by Penny Taylor, and that's one of, the ideas, and I mean, there's definitely something that needs to be done for sure, Ron, and we'd love for you to be a part of that conversation, especially if you're considering investing. So that's powerful testimony to that committee for sure.
I guess I just need some commitment from you as the mayor and this committee to say, yes, that's a good thing to do, because I don't feel that today. And I've been holding off for probably 9 months from buying this property, which I still have availability to. I just don't understand why I would want to. I need to be convinced that it's a good decision.
I mean, I think that there is opportunity for some commercial businesses to be downtown. I think that currently none of the buildings are making it easy for any business to move in and start operating. We're kind of in the situation where we have the buildings that are being occupied are filled. The other buildings that are kind of being held onto and unoccupied, the property owners are comfortable with just holding on to them as they are. And
Which
I
are
think, right.
basic.
And I think we can recognize that that's not ideal. One of the reasons that I know residential is not allowed, downstairs downtown is because the village does pay kind of an extra overhead to maintain that wider street and those sidewalks and the infrastructure there. And it's built for a specific purpose, commercial. But I mean, I would be in favor of kind of seeing that same deal, that we gave to that business owner that does own that building that you have interest in. I think that there's a possibility to do that for the rest of the buildings as well.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion. I think there's lots of different ideas on the table.
So I would love to throw a proposal. I mean, just as a verbal, is say, I want a 5-year plan of a tax reduction from 30 down to 0 and a 5-year plan. I want some commitment from the village to tell me that it's okay to open a business here, because I don't feel comfortable at this moment.
I think that's a discussion that can be had, but I think part of the problem there is you're talking about property tax.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's, unfortunately in the village, there's multiple entities that have a stake at property tax, and includes the school and Penta and right. And so that's a discussion where if that's what you're asking, it would have to be in agreement with all of those entities, to make that a reality.
So Jeremy, I'm only presenting this to say that would invite other people that have the storefronts to do something.
Yeah, I'm not against that, Ron. I'm just pointing out that particular ask is an ask that
is beyond you.
That involves more than just village council. And and I'm not saying that, village council couldn't even be the liaison, to seeing that through. I was just pointing out that fact.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that up, and I'm sorry I took so much time up.
No, you're
but
fine.
It's a
Appreciate
passion of mine, and I think talking to Dean, maybe eventually here, we can find out a way to, I don't know, make this not a ghost town.
Yeah, and exactly. And, that committee last meeting, talked a whole lot about things that we could do for the downtown with, some of the grant opportunities. So I think it falls right in line with what we're currently talking about. It's been on the table for a long time. And like I said, your buy-in there, could be powerful, in that committee to get that moving forward.
Sounds like you could put a migrant center in.
Well, I hate to say it, but that's exactly what my thoughts were, is to say I could have a migrant camp then in this place and I could house 40 or 50. Not to be a smart ass, I'm not trying to be, but I'm just saying that you're opening that opportunity because the church did the same thing.
Well, and I look forward to
I don't
getting,
want that to happen to anybody else. I'm just
Right.
saying, I think that's a terrible thing, so I wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying
right.
that it
Okay.
opens that opportunity too.
Ron, and I apologize for cutting you off. We are at our time limit.
No problem.
I'd love to talk with you further and see you at that committee meeting.
Okay.
All right. And I think that addresses everybody. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Your motion to adjourn.
Yeah, since when do you need the motion to?
Paul suggested that I take a motion to following guidance.
Proves my point.
If I have a first,
Second.
all in favor,
Uh,
any opposed?